one and I stand on that. You and me, babe, that's black on black.
Now, Damson Idris said a thing today. Those of you who know him, you may know him from Snowfall. Others may know him as Lauren Harvey's baby boo, her boo thing, her current boo thing. Damson Idris. I think this guy's a keeper. Now, she could fumble the bag, but I feel like he is, not we're all the prize, but I think in this relationship, Damson Idris is going places. I think he's wildly talented. I'm not just saying that because I had a chance to talk with him last year, Smith? He's so amazing. Like he's figured it out, and he's not that old, but he's got a wisdom. So he tweeted this in all caps, Dr. Mitchell, and I want y'all to just sit with it for a second. He said, I see so much unprovoked hatred towards Black women today by predominantly grown Black men, especially towards our young stars that are just trying to do their thing. He said, the compulsion to humble these women perhaps makes you feel like more of a man. I promise you, you aren't meant to us. Who's us, though? He said, you aren't meant to us. He said, a new year is approaching. Grow up. I don't know who he's talking to. I don't know who he's talking about. I'm sure something happened that made him all cap that, because cap is you yell, you saying something like you mad about it. But so I have a couple questions, and I want to hear from the audience. 866-801-8255. Is anybody bothered by this statement? He's saying he's seeing a lot of unprovoked hatred. Has anybody seen this, by the way? Have you seen the unprovoked hatred towards Black women by predominantly grown Black men, especially towards our young stars that are trying to do their thing? The compulsion to humble these women perhaps makes you feel more of a man, but you aren't men to us. Is he talking about young men? Is he talking about British Black men? Is he talking about Nigerian Black men? Is he talking about African Black? Like, who is he talking about? Actors? Like, who's the us? I was intrigued by this. I want to know what precipitated this. And he said a new year is approaching. Grow up. Now, I've been seeing some Sierra shame. That's what I've been seeing. That's what's on my, calling her leftovers and sloppy seconds and all of this stuff because, she's pregnant with Russell Wilson's third child. She's got a child with Future as well. People are mad at Russell they call him a simp. They call him, weak. They call Russell Wilson. I don't think you want to meet him on a football field, though. All y'all running your mouths with Russell Wilson. He's an actual football player. And you would get your neck set. He takes hits from people. Okay. I don't think he's a simp. And he's pussy whipped. You hear that? He's so weak. And I'm like, because he loves Sierra, that makes him weak. Because he's taking care of her son and treating him like his son. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? So it was baffling to me. I haven't really talked about it because I'm trying to mind my business and drink my water, Dr. Caritha, but I see it all. And so I'm like, okay, thank you. So a woman named Lizzy out the box from TikTok had a comment to make. She had a thing to say that was far better than anything I could have formed in words and put it out into the universe. So I want to play this, but before I do, I want to just ask people, are you seeing this? Because I've been seeing some things, and I chalk it up to, and I put it in that same power dynamic that I put in with the white folk being scared, the folk out there marching with the MAGA hats and storming the cap. It's the same kind of energy because there's a feeling that something's being taken from you. All these Black women with their degrees, they don't need me, whatever it is, all of the Kevin Samuel followers. I was relatively quiet during that period of time, resting whatever you're resting in, Kevin Samuel. But you were capitalizing off of an energy. Kevin Samuel could have never been as famous or successful as he was if there wasn't a thread of this that he was in, sowing and putting yeast into and making. But if it didn't already live in people, He could have never amassed that. The passport bros that are looking for docile women, who treat you like kings and, let me lead. These women they're so masculine. These women are so masculine. And even those casting of aspersions. Like, if a woman is masculine and she makes you feel less than a man, that says more about your manhood than it does about her masculinity. But I'm going to say less about that. But I'm seeing it, and I'm saying, as we march towards 2024, this is untenable. This cannot exist and us come together and have real power and freedom if this division keeps happening. Yeah. If this division is allowed to be unchecked and unsullied, which is why I was going hard in the paint around hip hop. But I've come back to my senses. Thank you, Grammys, for reminding me of the true nature of hip hop. Mm-hmm. But I feel like we have to have a conversation about it. So I wanted to know what you think, but let me play this clip first. 866-801-8255. Are y'all seeing it? Is it real, or is it the media is fabricating the division? Is it something that is in a figment of our imagination? If you're a man and you're feeling that, somehow women are just taking your place, the Jews will not replace us, is what they said with the tiki torches, but you feel replaced in the workplace, and there's a deference in this world to women, and it's the black women are they're just dominating and they're not letting us lead. If you're feeling that, call up 866-801-8255. I'm gonna play this clip. Maybe you won't call after you hear it. If you still call after you hear it, I'm actually going to praise you for having courage. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, play the clip, Smith.
So I'm probably going to end up blocking you, but I did want to talk a little bit about this. And granted, I know everything that I say is going to go right over your head. I do not expect you to understand what I'm talking about at all. You're going to be extremely confused. But anyway, when I see comments like this, I'm reminded of how much heterosexual men are missing out on the full human experience. This is a woman. She is not sloppy seconds.
Okay, pause.
She does not
belong
to a bunch.
Pause. She's pointing to a picture of Sierra. This is a woman who's not sloppy seconds. She's not. Okay, go ahead. Bunch
of hood dudes. She is a woman, and a beautiful one at that. But because you are in a mental state, as are many men, where you see women as objects, as a used vagina or a not used vagina, you'll never know what it is to have a true connection with women. And this is not something you can fake. It's not something that anybody's going to be able to explain to you. You're just never going to have it. It's like having brain damage at a really early age. And so when you see someone like Russell Wilson, it confuses you and it enrages you because you're denying yourself your full humanity. And so when you see this man who is willing to be vulnerable in ways that scare you, the child part of your brain, the part of your brain that knows that it has been taken advantage of, the ill-advised part of your brain, the stunted growth part of your brain, the little boy calls this man a simp and uses terms like sloppy seconds because you don't know what it means to be an adult man in love with a woman. And if you ever had the chance to experience a connection with a woman that goes beyond sexual or transactional in any way, especially a woman as beautiful as Sierra, you would stumble through it so badly that you wouldn't be able to live with yourself. It would be an incredibly shameful experience for you. And you know this, and that's why you hate them. They are a reminder, especially Russell, of how remedial you are in your relationships with women because you can't connect with women, because you don't see them as women, you see them as objects. And so this huge part of your humanity that's gonna just be missing for the rest of your life, this deep gaping chasm that you're gonna try and fill with everything from male validation to schmornography, is never gonna be filled. And you will never know the joy of seeing a woman smile without the extreme shame of thinking she's laughing at you. You are always going to feel like a joke, especially around women. And that is why you're going to hate us more every day as you get older. This denial of the feminine makes you not human. Men who hate women are like boys who were raised by wolves.
That last dig. And you think Russell is real.
All right. That was Lizzy Outside the Box. Oh, yes, it's Lizzy B on TikTok. Dr. Karitha Mitchell is here. It's the Karen Hunter Show. We're on Sirius XM Urban View. We're talking powers and becomes action. We're going to have to settle this before we move into our divinity. This is going to have to be settled. Thoughts and
Yeah.
prayers, Dr. Mitchell.
Yeah, there's so much to say about this. Craig actually played this video for me because I'm not really on TikTok and he is. So I think that's where he saw it. He played it for me. And he was talking about how he didn't understand the hatred part, you know, that everything that she said felt true. And he's seen men operate that way. And what he is baffled by is the hatred. And so part of what I want to say in response to this powerful audio is that what we have to understand, like, I love the fact that she's coming at it from a kind of psychological analysis. But what I want to offer is a discourses and practices analysis, as I always do, right? Because what we have to start to understand is the messages that we're drenched in. So if I start with the ending, you will never know the joy of having someone embrace your harmless imperfections. Part of what we need to recognize is, what is it that we have been drenched in messages to accept and not accept? And I would say that part of what we've been drenched in is the idea that men should have license to behave in all kinds of ways. Even when their imperfections come out as actual violence, you should be a ride or die. I need us to understand that message that we're drenched in presumes full range of options for men and a limited range for women. This is what I mean when I say that one of the biggest lies that American culture tells, because it is a patriarchal, misogynistic culture, one of the lies it tells is that men can love and not see you as an equal. So this is what it means to have white men see white women and other women as property, but claim that it's a proper domestic nuclear family. This is what it means to have Black power men who talking about how they a king and they need to have their queen when they actually cannot see that woman as an equal. That is what patriarchy does. It says that if you learn how to keep your proper place, then I can love you. But that is a lie. You cannot actually love a person that you don't see as fully human and you're equal. So these are the messages that we're bombarded with, and I need us to notice the way that those messages are giving license to men and giving a box to women. And anytime you're accepting that, you're accepting something that is limiting somebody else's humanity, and you have been duped. That is the reason why the connection can't be real. This is similar to what I said about Chris Rock, right? The way that he's chasing what American culture tells him he ought to chase and he'll be happy. But because American culture tells you to see women as objects, as capital to be accumulated, you can never trust a woman as a human because you don't see her as human. So it is a lie that we accept at our peril.
Yes. And for me, it's the same as racism.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same energy. Absolutely. And I need to be capacious. Excuse me. I'm going to lean into that word today. I'm going to keep saying it, because that capaciousness should be the goal, to be as big, as expansive as possible.
And not only big and expansive, Karen, but I just think about the dynamism that it allows, right? If you're thinking in capacious terms, then there is a dynamism that never leaves you stuck. You can always move. And my humanity is never disrupted by the different ways that I move. That to me is what capaciousness is, right? So with the dominant discourse and practice that we're trapped in, like what you're saying, racism, the dominant discourse and practice is all about whiteness equals innocence and merit, and Blackness equals guilt and lack of merit. Those are simply ways of narrowing your humanity. So part of what it means is that if I am walking through the world and whiteness attaches to me, then assumptions about my merit attach to me. And it never actually invites me to be fully human and hold myself to, I don't know, a standard of decency toward my fellow man. It actually never asks me to do that, because it's a narrow conception that says that I am fabulous just because, and no matter how much I don't actually have an objective standard to hold myself to, I can think of myself in that way, which means that I'll never grow. And that dynamism that I'm talking about can never be part of my experience. The same thing in the opposite direction for Blackness. So again, for me, this is about seeing dominant discourse and practice as limiting humanity rather than letting it be dynamic.
Amen. And Dr. Caretha Mitchell, that's the voice that you're hearing right now. It's the Karen Hunter Show. And for me, my job is to hopefully inspire everyone to see the possibilities in themselves and never let anybody leg sweep your potential, because we will hear in our head the voices of our parents or the voices of the people that are in our lives influencing us about what it means to be a proper woman, no matter what your culture. You know, when I look at Damson Idris, he comes from a Nigerian culture that has very distinct roles and rules for men and women. And yet this man is having a different conversation, because why would you want to limit somebody else's potential and greatness unless that greatness and potential makes you feel smaller? And if somebody being around somebody big, or if Toni Morrison says, you know, I have to stand on your head to be tall, how tall are you? You know, like, if you have to diminish somebody in your life so that you can feel worthy and in charge and a leader, then you're not much of a leader at all. The only true measure of bigness and leadership is to be around people who are their full selves. And you're still, and your shine doesn't have to shine as brightly, but you fit in where you do, because it's all part of a grander plan. I get excited being around, which is why I invite so many brilliant people on this show, because I'm like, tell me more, teach me. Like, I want to be more, but I can't be more limiting the people that I surround myself with. I can only be more around more. So thank you for being more.
Thank you. Listen, here's the thing. So now we're back to Damson Idris's quotation. This is where I want to go. He talked about the compulsion to humble these women, Karen. So just like I did with Lizzy out of the box, I want to do with the Damson Idris quotation. I'm not going to claim to have a psychological insight and to talk about people's insecurities. What I would rather do is talk about the discourses and practices that we're drenched in. And if we can notice them, then that will allow us to free ourselves of it. So for me, what compulsion to humble is about is that we live in a society that is built on unequal access to everything. It is built on inequity. So part of what that means is that dominant discourse and practice is always encouraging us to respond to people in marginalized groups with what I call know your place aggression, that they should know their place. So what I want us to think about, this compulsion to humble that Idris is talking about, is it is the common pattern of American culture that reacts to encourage other people to know their proper place. So this compulsion to humble, I don't want to think about it as psychological. I want us to think about it as the pattern of our culture. So if you notice that American culture is always encouraging you, or dominant culture, even Western culture, like whatever you want to call it, the common response to a woman who is being successful is, how can I humble her? How can I have her know her proper place? The common response to a Black person, how can I make them know their proper place? The common response to a queer person. Like, I need us to recognize that all of those isms are about certain people knowing their proper place, so that the people who fit this narrow idea of what a full citizen is can have license to act a freaking fool. That is what our power structures do. They are not about just oppressing somebody. They're about giving license to people in dominant categories.